Okay, it is actually 16:02 on July 26th. We call the meeting of the Wolfeboro Police Commission to order at this time and ask that everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
And as always, I'd like to introduce everybody that's up here at the table. To my far right, our Secretary, Amy Luccio. To my right, the camera's left, Commissioner Goodgame. I am Commissioner Steve Wood, Commissioner Balboni, Chief Dean Rondo, and Captain Mark Livy. And at this time, gentlemen, we can take into consideration the minutes of the June 21st meeting.
I make the motion. We accept June 21st meeting.
Okay. I found one minor typo under the prosecutor report to change the C on offenses to an S.
On page 2.
On page 2. This right. The prosecutor, I just want to change that C on offenses to an S. Everything else looked good typographically.
Further spelling.
Okay. Any other discussion of the minutes of July 26th?
No.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, June 21st.
I'll accept and second Balboni's motion.
Okay, as amended? All
Yeah.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Chief, if you'll proceed with the one, please.
Thank you, sir. So referring to the first slide in your slide deck is the incidents for June 2018. You see we had a decrease from 72 incidents in May to 46, a 36.11% decrease. That's due to a lot of things, but primarily just a lot of the officers getting out there, I think, in general patrol and crime prevention, physical security. But of course, with the backup data, you'll see that of those 46, we had 80 offenses. So multiple offenses for each incident. Moving on to your next slide in the slide deck, you'll see the arrests are up from 25 to 39. That's a 56% increase. And again, it's a lot of that is due to the federal grants that we're doing, and then other activity as the summer wears on. It's just going to get busier. You've got the background data in your report, in the arrest status report. And again, I just want to remind you that that report is complete to include juveniles in there, so you can see everything that has occurred in the month of June.
Could I ask you a question with
Yes,
regard
sir.
to the arrests? I haven't seen anything with regard to the bike patrol. Did we discontinue that?
No, the bike patrol is out. Captain, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a little limited due to the retirement of the Sergeant Moore. So we're down an officer, so shifts are a little limited due to that.
Okay, I wondered if that was a personnel issue.
It is, and as the captain brought up, we only have so many officers, and when one, springs a retirement on us, like Sergeant Moore did, with what do we have, 2 or 3 weeks notice, tops. We had grand plans, obviously, this year for bike patrol, and now we're down a guy. So.
And you and I have talked informally, and it's my understanding that at some point in time you're going to be requesting some additional personnel. Is that right?
We are indeed, and in fact, when our budget, not that we're at this point yet, but just to let you know, the captain and I were looking at adding a new bike to the budget for fiscal year 19. So yes, the bike patrol is something that we still do. We are looking at resourcing that. We are looking forward to continuing that program. We think it's a very valuable community policing resource. It certainly allows the officers to get around in a heavily congested portion of town during the summertime. It isn't anything that's going to go away, but it depends on staffing. And obviously, and just so you know, that bike patrol is also augmented in the summertime with the pedestrian crosswalk safety patrols that we put on through the New Hampshire Highway Safety Grant Program. So that is augmented by foot cops and by mobile patrols in the summer months as well.
Now, this additional bicycle patrolman, this is in addition to replacing more, correct?
Well, yes, it'll be, yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, that's correct.
good.
Okay.
How are we staffed currently with part-time? Are we getting
Currently, we have 2 right now.
just the two guys?
No, 3 with Garrett. But
I will tell you that the pickings out there are getting slim for qualified personnel. It's getting really hard to hire qualified personnel.
And we approved the conditional of a female part-timer in the last meeting, or not?
Yes.
Yes, thought so. Is that moving on, process, or?
The process is still.
Okay. Please continue, sir.
Thank you, sir. So moving on, the next slide in the slide deck is collisions. We're up a little from 19 to 21, 10.52% increase, and again, that's due to the fact that it's summertime in Wolfeboro and there's more traffic out on the road. And in the backup slides, you've got all the usual suspects in terms of where they're occurring. Traffic stops year to date. We've had 102.86% increase from 279 to 566. And of that, 27 tickets were given out, and that breaks down to, and I know this is Commissioner Goodgame's favorite slide, 4.77% chance of getting a ticket. So 566 stops, 27 tickets issued, all right, which is a 4.77% chance. So less than a 5% chance you're going to get a ticket if you get a stop. The important thing is there's value in every traffic stop. There's value in warnings, and they're educational. Right, they're educational. So if one is traveling down the road and one has a headlamp out, for example, and you're pulled over, right, that's a traffic stop, and we're bringing it to your attention, and we're probably going to explain to you why it's dangerous to be driving with only one headlamp on. For example,
Is the higher number, it's more than double.
yes.
Is that due to the grant work?
That's due to the grant work, that's right. So let me just explain that. So even though the grants, the captain does a fantastic job in writing grants, and these grants come in and they're approved in the first quarter. Typically, they're approved in the first quarter of the fiscal year. We have to pull some, per the contract, we have to pull some of those patrols on specified times that highway safety, both state and federal, tell us to pull the grants. That's fine. That's usually on holidays and certain times that they want to affect distracted driving in some way, for example. But it doesn't make any sense for us to pull those grants in, say, the month of February, right? It's usually bad weather. The population density in February is not what it is in June, July, and August, September, October timeframe, right, for example. So you're going to see these spikes because our population density sustained within the geographical confines, the 59 square miles that make up the bucolic town of Wolfeboro, in the summertime is somewhere between 15 and 25,000. All right, I mean, that's the population density that we have here in this town. All right, I know what the census says. I know the census says 6,200. I don't believe the census. I believe the census is inaccurate. This is a drum I'm going to continue to pound until I die. I think we're more somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 year-round residents. So for some reason, we're not capturing that remaining 4,000, and that's my
Pet peeve.
Yeah, that's my pet peeve, and I'm going to stay on it. But that's why you see these fluctuation in the numbers. There's just a lot of people on the road. You've got the background data if you want to dive into that to see where the stops are occurring and how many stops, broken down by category and by type of stop and RSA and violation, and whether they were summonses or warnings issued, and then the amount of money that was generated. And of course, that money goes to the state, not to the town of Wolfeboro. Yes, sir.
I think a compliment that can be shared by the police department is that I've noticed a significant drop-off on complaints dealing with traffic stops. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's back into that community policing. I don't know whether it's the warnings or what it is, but I think that the conduct of the police department has been exemplary.
I get a lot of compliments too, and I really appreciate you saying that, Commissioner. I get a lot of compliments too. We work really hard, and all levity aside, we do really work very hard to deliver a quality product to our residents, visitors, and guests. And obviously, neither the captain nor I will tolerate disrespect from our officers to the public, and that's not what we're aiming for. Again, we just want to educate. We want to slow the traffic down. We don't want traffic crashes, and there are real
Protect
reasons.
and to serve.
There you go, protect and to serve, right. General law enforcement principle. You're absolutely correct, sir. Gentlemen, the next slide you have in your slide deck is the personnel analysis report. This will give you a snapshot for the month of June of the officer activity for everybody within the police department, including myself, so you can see where we stack up. Just keep in mind when you review this, just keep in mind that some officers do work midnights when traditionally there is not an awful lot of activity occurring, so just keep that in the back of your mind. You'll see the school resource officers report is in your packet. It was a short month for him because school is out, and I believe, Captain, do you know when they go back to school?
September 4th.
There you go. So, so right now we're enjoying the benefits of having Officer Llewellyn back in the confines of the four corners of the Wolfeboro Police Department. He's doing a fantastic job, and today I got to witness him in all his glory, talking to some visitors from Switzerland. And he was doing a marvelous job at community policing, as was pointed out by a citizen who happened to be in Katie's kitchen at the time, and some photographs were taken, and they're going to be on our Facebook page. Nice. And then I got the privilege of speaking to that young girl in German, which is something I don't have an opportunity to do very often, right after you had walked out. And in fact, somebody had come up to me and said, "Where'd you learn German?" I said, "U.S. Army." So anyway, that was pretty neat. I don't get to practice my German very often, and yes, my German is really bad.
You probably left a good impression.
One can only hope. One can only hope.
Makes you wonder what you might have said to me.
Yeah. That's my concern.
Especially if you learned in the Army.
So, gentlemen, the next report you have in your deck is the detectives' activity report, and 7 cases were carried over from June 2018. For the month of June, he investigated a total of 6 new cases. The cases below represent all incidents reports and arrest reports for the month of June. 4 cases were investigated as misdemeanors, 2 cases as a felony, and at the end of June, there were 7 ongoing investigations, including some from the previous month. So you'll see these broken down: 1 sexual assault, 1 sexual assault rape, 2 criminal mischief vandalism, 1 theft, 1 stalking. Percentage of cases closed this month is 67%, which is that's a good percentage closed. Percentage of arrests in criminal cases closed this month is 33%. So really, essentially, what he's saying is that 1/3 of all the cases that he closed ended in arrest, which is a good number. I know that seems a little low, but that's a good number. And year to date is at 85% closure rate, which is fantastic. I mean, any major town, any major city in the United States would kill for these percentages. And then you've got the background tally sheet, so you can track for the entire year. Gentlemen, moving on, and Mr. Chairman, with your permission, can I go into the chief's items?
Yes, you may, please.
Thank you, sir. So I have no items for non-public session.
I do.
Okay. Personnel and budget. The command and staff conducted 2 internal FY15 budget reviews this past month. With some bittersweet moments recalled over a 25-year career, we bid Sergeant Scott Moore adieu from the Wolfeboro Police Department on 9 July 2018. With his leave used up, he will officially be off our books on 31 July 2018, so in just a few days. We wish Sergeant Moore and his family a very fond farewell, fair winds, and following sea, Scott. What a great career he's had in the Wolfeboro Police Department, and I'll just take a few moments to let the public know he's a fantastic police officer. He and I worked on a lot of high-profile cases and investigations over the years, and we've got a lot of fond memories. And I think he was technically and tactically proficient. So I'm going to miss you, Scott, and I think you did the citizens a great job here, and I wish you well. So I'm going to miss you. Thank you.
Just a point.
Sir.
You wish his family well in retirement, but his wife is still with us, right?
That's correct. Sherry's still with us. Yes, sir.
Good.
So, Senior Patrolman Llewellyn, myself, and Captain Mark Libby appeared on our Coffee and Connections program this past month, and I continue to receive many positive comments about this very informative and worthwhile series. And on the last one we did, we had a couple of young children that were visiting up from Massachusetts wanted to be on the program, so that was good. They get to ask a lot of really cool questions, and so I thought it went really well. So, and if you want to be on that program, folks, all I want you to do is get in touch with Peter or Tim or myself or the captain. You can contact Peter and Tim down at Wolfeboro Community TV and just ask to be on, and we can talk about anything you want to talk about. We can talk about baseball, football, search and seizure. We can talk about the Fourth Amendment issues, anything you want to talk about, and so we just love to have people on the program. So come on down and be our guest. As always, coffee's on me. So in operations, in an interesting turn of events, I recently learned that the County Attorney's Office has requested a third sentencing hearing in the Christina Fay case. I do not know why, and nothing has been discussed with me, so stay tuned for more information. As you know, she has appealed portions of the sentencing hearing to the Supreme Court. Once I learn more, I will pass them along. This month, 12 defendants responded to 15 charges. Of those 15 charges, 8 were found guilty or pled guilty. 5 charges were placed on file pending good behavior for 6 months or more with diversion and education and restitution components to their sentence. 1 case with 2 charges was bound over to the Superior Court as they were felonies. The conviction rate this month is 100%, with approximately $3,620 in fines, penalties, and restitutions meted out. So folks, crime does not pay. The department is conducting its enhanced speed enforcement operations in the following areas. Beach Pond Road, with a focus on the area between Pine Hill Road and North Line Road, as this continues to be a problem. Center Street, North Main Street, which continues to be a problem. 109 East and Sewell Road. Sewell Road was recently added. The reason for these speed enforcement operations is due to citizen complaints and data collected and analyzed by our radar trailer. We will continue our efforts in these areas until we are sure that the speeds have come down. If you travel these roads, please be mindful of the speed limits. Along with that, and I just want to mention this very quickly, gentlemen, we have a citizen who wants to remain anonymous, who contributed, donated $11,000 to the Police Association's nonprofit for the purchase of radar warning signs. And so those signs indeed have been ordered, and they will be coming in. Do we know when they're doing? The captain is tracking that. So, but they'll be doing sometime this month. And once they're in, we will go ahead and get them programmed and set up and deployed. This will add another ability for us to monitor traffic and collect data in various areas where we think we're having problems. So these radar warning signs are equipped with a solar panel, so there's no electricity here. They're basically self-sufficient. They can be deployed almost permanently, or indefinitely, I should say.
They have a lot of those in Florida.
And right, and they collect and send data via Wi-Fi back to the police department. So it's a really nice way to monitor areas and then to identify when we're having problems, so we can deploy resources directly to those areas at those specified times. This is a huge help to the Wolfeboro Police Department. We're very grateful to that citizen again who wishes to remain anonymous, and we're very thankful. But this will be a nice addition, and it works very similar to our radar trailer, made by the same corporation. So it really does give us an increased capability that we didn't have before. So I'm very happy. As the commission knows, Ms. Watson, the person who struck and seriously injured a Wolfeboro Public Works employee and put him in a hospital, has been arrested and charged with aggravated DWI and felony reckless conduct. Additionally, she has been indicted by the Carroll County Grand Jury, and the case is now with the Carroll County Attorney's Office. As a public safety announcement, please pay attention because this is very important. If you are on any medications which impair or could possibly impair your driving skills, or your ability to operate a motor vehicle, do not drive. Yes, this includes marijuana. Even if the medication is legal and you are taking it under a doctor's instructions, if your ability to operate a motor vehicle is impaired for any reason due to intoxicating or impairing substances, including medications, and you cause a crash because of your inability to control the vehicle or see properly, you will be charged with DWI along with anything else I can think of. Just because a substance is legal does not mean you can take it and drive impaired. As an example, alcohol presently is legal. You cannot legally drive a motor vehicle if you are impaired on alcohol. Think about it.
Makes sense.
So again, if you're on a medicine and it's going to impair you, or there's a warning label, and you cause a crash and you're on it, even if it's ordered by a doctor, you're going to be charged with DWI. All right, it's that simple. Enough said. In dispatch, we had approximately 12,000 calls for service this past quarter, and year-to-date is approximately 21,500 calls for service. As you know, we had the 25 June public safety building, 25 July public safety building presentation to the boss. It went well and plenty of information was discussed. I will keep the commission updated as we move forward with this very important project scheduled for construction in 2022. We had a meeting with New Hampshire Highway Safety on 17 July. There are budget issues brewing with New Hampshire Highway Safety. Though we presented a good case for Wolfeboro and the Lakes region, I suspect that moving forward in the future, there will be real deep budget cuts this coming FY19, which will impact our various grants and grant opportunities. I am not sure yet how badly we will be cut, but once I find out, I will let the commission know. As you are aware, New Hampshire Highway Safety funds many of our grant opportunities, up to about $50,000 per year. Training for the month of June, Shane conducted major crimes investigation training. Officer Swift conducted a START summit. Guy attended prosecutor school, and that's a very good school for a young sergeant, because it really focuses on the rules of evidence and prosecutions. It helps a detective or a sergeant understand what a prosecutor is really looking for in terms of building a case for prosecution. Really, really important.
What officer did that school?
Guy Maloney.
And dispatch had no training this year. It's really tough to get our dispatchers in training for the summer just because we're so busy. You saw that calls for service. 12, they're just in the month of June was 12,500 calls for service. That's a lot of calls in 1 month. Outreach and matters of interest. The captain and I spoke on Wolfeboro Community TV this past month. The captain and I continue to be regulars at the men's breakfast meetings each month. Both the captain and I continue to be a presence at the boss meetings. I continue to serve on both the Governor's Committee for the Humane and Ethical Treatment of Animals and serve on Senator Jeb Bradley's legislative committee seeking to strengthen the state's animal cruelty laws. As Jake on the Lake has been replaced by OST, a new radio personality on WASR, I continue to conduct our monthly podcast with him regarding community topics of interest. So please tune into our very own WASR at 1420 AM on your AM dial. Lastly, please be our guest on Coffee and Connections with the Chief. This Wolfeboro TV community show entails the captain and I, members of our department, meeting and speaking with various groups or individuals on Wolfeboro Community TV at local area venues while discussing various community topics of interest. If you would like to be on TV or want to have us come down to your group or area to talk, simply contact Peter or Tim at Wolfeboro Community TV and be part of Coffee and Connections with the Chief. And as always, the coffee's on me. Gentlemen, following this, there will be a end of quarter budget review.
Captain, do you have any items you want to?
Nothing to pass over.
Okay. You all set?
All set for what?
To move forward? The budget reviews?
Sure.
Chief, if you would go ahead.
Thank you very much. So the first, if you want to go to your budget appropriation report, the first thing I'd like you to do is just take a look at that bottom number there. Now this report is current as of the end of June, and you'll see we're really right where we need to be at about 50% spent on the budget. Right now, there's no major areas of concern that I have. Some areas are a little overspent. A lot of that is due to the way they build out, for example, workers' compensation or unemployment compensation or some of the other areas that are built out by town finance officer. The overtime line item is offset by reimbursements we receive from grants. And Captain, off the top of your head, how much do we have outstanding right now from highway safety?
Just over 13,000.
Yeah, about 13,000 or so, a little bit north of that. So if you just plug 13,000 back in, that's going to bring that number back down into closer alignment. Again, we should be right at about 50% spent. Gentlemen, subject to your questions on the police budget report, I'll address any concerns that you have at this time.
I just had the one question, but I think I know the answer. Supervisory salaries, those are you two?
That's correct.
No sergeants?
No sergeants, no, that's hourly wages.
Okay.
Okay, dispatch.
So moving on to dispatch again, if you want to take a look, the first number you want to go to is that bottom number. Take a look at that, 48% spent. So, you know, essentially right on target for where we want to be at the end of June. You know, there's not a whole lot of overtime to begin with in the dispatch budget. We're a little bit north of 50%, by about 12%, 13% or so. But that's due to the fact that we're really having a hard time finding qualified part-time applicants, and there's been some open shifts that had to be filled by full-time employees, and that's just the nature of the business. But getting back to that earlier comment, you know, dispatching is a real skill. Being a police officer obviously is a real skill, and we're having a real hard time finding qualified applicants to do both jobs. And I'll just let the commission know that it's getting tough out there. All right,
We've
moving
hired
on.
most of them.
Huh?
Yeah.
We've already hired most of them.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely correct about that. Moving on to animal control. You know, I just want to give Earl a plug here. This guy is a real professional. He's easy to work with. He's easy to deal with. He's Johnny on the spot. He doesn't ask for a whole lot. I almost feel guilty paying the guy because he does a very nice job and he doesn't ask for anything. He doesn't make any complaints, and I think he's doing a real nice job. And you can see his budget is basically 10% below where it needs to be. So again, I think overall we're doing a pretty good job on the budget. I do know was given a somewhat of a compliment by the new town manager. We did not appear on her bad boy list for the budget.
Bad boy.
For busting the midterm budget. So that's good, I think. So we continue, and just again, one last thing. Let the commission know before I turn it over to the chairman that the captain and I are doing a internal budget review every 14 days to make sure we have a good handle on the budget. And that's just a practice we're gonna keep up. It's working well for me, and things can change very, very drastically in just a short period of time.
Maybe we'll be there by 5:30. Is that correct?
Yeah, but then we can start setting up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay.
Before you leave that, could you give a quick plug to Team Wolfeboro?
Well,
You've been in communication, I know.
I have, yes, and I just found out from Chief Doug Wyman, he wants me to speak at the next event. I did tell them that I did tell Bob that I'd write him a letter of support. I will do that. And though I haven't been asked formally yet, Chief Wyman did let me know informally that they're going to want me to present at the next community forum. I told him he'd be delighted to do that. And he kind of gave me the warning order, so to speak. But yes, Team Wolfeboro, I think, is a great organization, and it's really geared toward informing citizens and parents primarily about the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse or substance abuse. And obviously, this is something that the Wolfeboro Police Department supports, and anything we can do to understand the problem and to get ahead of the problem, I think is worthwhile.
But you're finding them helpful?
Very helpful. I think, like I said, I think anything we can do to counter the permissive and semi-permissive attitudes about drugs and substance abuse, and specifically marijuana abuse and the dangers associated with legalizing marijuana, I think is very helpful. As you gentlemen know, I am anti-marijuana legalization. I think for a whole bunch of different reasons. You can't convince me that it's not a gateway drug. I've just been in this business far too long to know better. No amount of data that you put in front of me is going to convince me otherwise. I think marijuana is dangerous. I think it's addictive. And we've seen from past experiences that, you know, when states around us, like Maine or Vermont or New York and Massachusetts, legalize the marijuana, it floods into New Hampshire. And if that wasn't bad enough, they're finding ways to strengthen the toxicity, or I should say the potency of the drug in such things as butane honey oil or dab, or turning it into a substance that can be ingested through vaping, which I think is just a whole other bad thing, which should be uninvented. So again, none of this is good. All of it is bad. I think it's addictive. I think it's habit forming. I think it contributes to a whole lot of mental issues and exacerbates or acts as a catalyst for other mental health issues, and I just don't like it. I think it's bad. I don't think we need it. The last thing we need in society right now is another intoxicating substance. We got alcohol, right? What more do we need?
And right now, I think you'd agree that substance abuse is the #1 issue that we have at a felony level.
Well, it is indeed. You know, it's part of the reason. All right, so real quick, not to belabor this point, but when we talk about the opioid crisis, you know, and how we got here, there's a number of ways we got here, and I understand it very well. But one of the issues, if somebody is been abusing and using marijuana their entire lives, and now they have a real medical malady like a cancer or like some other issue that needs to be dealt with or remediated, they're already addicted. They're already used to. The body has built up a resistance because of their addiction to marijuana. So how do you treat them? So for example, if you have cancer and you're undergoing cancer treatment and they're prescribing you opioids, they're not going to work as well on you because you've been abusing marijuana your entire life. And that's what the medical community is seeing. So they're prescribing more and more opioids, and they're just not having the effect. So you're suffering longer and longer and more because they can't get your pain under control. It becomes a pain management issue. All right, so when we look at the second and third order effects of the legalization of recreational marijuana, or even medical marijuana, which the number of things that marijuana can do medically is so infinitesimal that I think we could deal with those persons on a case-by-case basis. I don't want to go down that road, but getting back to what I was saying, there's a whole list, a whole litany of second and third order effects that we're not even looking at, that we've kind of glossed over. You know, don't pay any attention to the man behind the black robe type of thing. And I think that's dangerous. I think that's really bad. It's bad public policy. It's bad law. It's bad for society. It's bad for the generation of kids that are coming up. You look at the studies coming out of Colorado and Washington State. You know, you got 13 and 14-year-old kids arriving at school, middle school and high school, and they're impaired. They're impaired on marijuana. When you're impaired on marijuana at that age, and you're in school, I'll tell you something that isn't happening. A whole lot of learning isn't happening. And look, these kids are going to be the future, right? This is the human capital that's going to learn to operate the drawbridges and run the electric plants and the power plants and the nuclear plants and the railroads and everything else that we have to run when we get older, all right? We need to be investing in our youth, not putting roadblocks in their way, obstacles to their progression. And I see the legalization of marijuana as a huge roadblock to the success of our youth in this country. And I know I get impassioned when you bring this topic up, and I wish you wouldn't take me down these rabbit holes like this. But yes.
You're good at it.
But I know, but yes, and it does contribute to, I think, the problems that we're having in society right now, and I think it's a contributor to a lot of the mental health issues that are going undiagnosed or unreported. And that's all I want to say, because I know we're pressed for time, Mr. Chairman.
Well, when we had talked earlier, we didn't have anything for non-public, but at this point, I would like to entertain a motion to end a non-public session under RSA 91-3, paragraphs A and G, for collective bargaining and compensation of public employees. I'd also like to include an invitation to our esteemed town manager, Becky Marrow, and Selectmen's representative, Paul O'Brien, to stay on and join us in this non-public session. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
So moved by Commissioner Balboni, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Goodgame. I'll poll the question. Commissioner Goodgame?
Yes.
Balboni, aye.
Yes. Commissioner Wood, yes. We stand adjourned momentarily.